Hey, does everybody know what that was? That was fog dissipating. Or sometimes you hear pilots say, the fog is burning off. Yeah, that's right, folks. Our topic today is fog. This is the Epic Flight Academy. My name is Mike Thompson, and this is part of our private pilot ground school course. To be successful in this course, you must, number one, study Epic's materials online. Number two, view these videos in parallel to that content. And number three, review all of this content with your flight instructor. Now, what about that fog? That fog that we just saw dissipated and burned off. Now, I didn't see any fires, did you? When pilots say burned off, what we mean is the actual temperature increased. So often in the morning times we see fog, the sun comes up, the temperature rises, the fog dissipates. We say the fog burned off. Well, the temperature went up, the air got warmer, and as you recall, warm air is capable of holding more water vapor. So that fog dissipated into vapor droplets in the air. So the moisture is still in the air, it's just so small that we can't see it in this warm air volume. Now that brings up an interesting point. When we talk about fog, we frequently talk about types of fog. We talk about, oh, there's 4, 5, 6, 7 types of fog. Here's what I want you to focus on. Rather than the types of fog, remember that one of two things is happening in order for fog to form. Number one, the temperature is decreasing to its dew point. Or number two, the moisture content is rising to that air parcel's dew point. Remember, when temperature and dew point come together, fog forms. So is fog different than a cloud? Is it fair to say that fog is just a cloud on the ground? Well, think about it for a second. There are no differences. It's the temperature and dew point together. It is the moisture condensed out of the air. And yes, in fact, it's fair to say fog is just a cloud on the ground. And in fact, we generally say if it's within about 50 feet of the ground, we call it fog. Now, looking at our online course, let's examine some 4 common types of fog. The first one we see here is called radiation fog. That happens on a clear, calm, humid night. And take a look at what's happening. The Earth is losing heat by radiating the heat out into the atmosphere and into space. And as the Earth cools, the air in contact with the Earth cools. And remember, we said it's one of two things? You got it. The temperature is falling. It reaches the dew point. Fog. That's radiation fog. Take a look at the second one. The second one says advection fog. Now, in meteorology, we have convection and advection. Convection moves vertically. Advection moves horizontally. So, if someone told us that we had warm, moist air from over the Atlantic Ocean, maybe moving slowly westward over the cold, drier land, and that warm, moist air contacted that cool land and dropped its temperature. Once again, the temperature and dew point are equal, fog forms, and it was a result of that horizontal movement. Advection fog. Take a look at the third one, upslope fog. Upslope fog happens when this moist, stable air is forced up a hill or up a mountain or up a landmass. As it rises, it cools adiabatically and it cools to the dew point. Presto, fog. That's upslope fog. Let's take a look at the fourth one. This is steam fog, sometimes called sea smoke, and we see this over the ocean or oftentimes the Great Lakes or big lakes. This is cool, dry air moving over warmer water. Now, remember, cool air does not hold as much moisture, and as it moves over this warm water, it starts to pick up water vapor and moisture. But at that cool temperature, it won't hold very much before it condenses into, you got it, fog. So you can see in all four of our examples in our online course, one of two things is happening. Either that temperature is dropping or that moisture content is increasing. Now, in addition to fog, let's touch briefly on some types of precipitation. In our online course, you see these 3 bullet points for precipitation. The first one is drizzle, rain, and virga. Drizzle, rain, and virga are all liquid water droplets falling from a cloud. Drizzle, I think we're all familiar with. That's like a light rain. Rain is droplets of water that have coalesced to approximately 2 millimeters across. Maybe big rain droplets are 5 millimeters. If you're not sure how big that is, 2 millimeters is about like that. It is visible to the naked eye. And so enough water vapor in the air has coalesced into that little raindrop, and that's rain. The third type is virga. Now, if those raindrops are falling out of the cloud and into air below it, where that air below it can absorb that moisture, that rain evaporates before it hits the ground. That's called virga. The next bullet point talks about ice pellets and hail. Now, hail is formed in vertically developed clouds, and little ice balls are taken vertically up through this cloud, and they freeze and they hit additional raindrops as they fall down or are moved up by these powerful vertical wind currents, this vertical wind turbulence. And as those ice balls start to circulate through this vertically developed cloud, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. They become hail. And then we talk about ice pellets. Ice pellets are slightly different. Ice pellets start out as snow. Snow falls out of the cloud into warmer air below and melts. And then it refreezes, and it refreezes into kind of a pellety, a frozen pellet shape. And those are ice pellets. And then finally, our third bullet point is snow, and this is moisture below freezing in a crystallized form, falls down, oftentimes makes a beautiful white scenery where it blankets the earth. So, folks, that pretty well covers fog and precipitation. Quick review question. What two factors will make fog? One of two things has to happen to make fog. I'll give you a second to think about it, and if you said either the temperature goes down or the dew point goes up, you got it. All right, everybody, we'll see you next time.